My dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to your online class. I am Dr. Sibila Firdousi, Associate Professor, Department of Physiology. Today we are going to discuss about cerebellum. Cerebellum is one of the important parts of the brain and it plays an important role in voluntary movements. It is very important for the smooth execution of our voluntary work. So let's start. Now first we are going to start with the functional division of cerebellum. Functionally, the cerebellum is divided into three parts. First we have we know that it has a right and left cerebellar hemisphere and which is joined by a narrow median strip called the vermis. So with all these parts in physiology, the cerebellum is divided into three parts. One is the vestibulocerebellum, the spinocerebellum and the cerebrocerebellum. The vestibulocerebellum is formed by the small flocculonodular lobe and adjacent portion of the vermis. Phylogenetically, it is the oldest part and it is concerned with equilibrium and eye movement. Next, we have the spinocerebellum. The spinocerebellum is formed by vermis of the posterior and anterior cerebellum and adjacent intermediate zones of both sides of the vermis. So, functionally, this has very important role. It coordinates the movements of the distal portion of the limbs, especially hands and fingers, and it receives proprioceptive inputs from the body and copy of the motor plan from the motor cortex. So this part of the cerebellum is very important. Next we have the cerebrocerebellum and it is formed by the lateral zones. Phylogenetically it is the newest part and it is functions in a feedback manner with the motor cortex for planning and timing of the sequential voluntary movements. So these are the three very important parts of the cerebellum and it plays an important role for the smooth and balanced execution of our voluntary movements. Now the cerebellum in an organization, we can say that it has an external cerebellar cortex which has 5 types of neurons. These are the Purkinje cells, the granule cells, the basket cells, the stellate cells and the Golgi cells. Again, the cerebellum has deep cerebellar nuclei and there are 4 pairs of the deep cerebellar nuclei. These deep cerebellar nuclei lie internal to the white matter and these nuclei are the dentate, the globose, the emboliform and the fastigial nuclei. Next, we shall see the functional unit of the cerebellum and the neuronal circuit. So, if we look at this diagram, we will see that there are 3 levels of cell layers. One is the granule cell layer, the Purkinje cell layer and the molecular layer. Here we can see that the Golgi cell and granule cells are located in the granule cell layer and the Purkinje cell in the Purkinje cell layer, and in the molecular layer we have the basket cell and the stellate cell. The cerebellar functional unit centers on a single large Purkinje cell and on a deep cerebellar nuclei. So the functional unit of the cerebellum, as you can see, is formed by a single large Purkinje cell and its connection with the deep cerebellar nuclei. Now there are 2 main inputs to the cerebellum. One is the mossy fiber and another one is the climbing fiber. So through these inputs, the cerebellum receives information from the periphery and then it exerts its function. The cerebrocerebellar feedback mechanism or the error control mechanism. So let's see how this works, how the cerebellum controls and corrects the errors in our voluntary movement. So during any voluntary movement, the motor cortex, what happens is, first the motor cortex sends motor impulse through the corticospinal tract to the spinal cord and then from the spinal cord it goes to the muscle through the motor nerve. At the same time, the motor cortex also sends collateral impulse to the cerebellum, and this happens through the pontocerebellar tract. So, the motor cortex is sending two impulses, one to the periphery and one to the cerebellum. So, for every movement, our cerebellum receives two inputs, one from the motor cortex, which tells the intention of the movement, and one sensory information from the periphery through the proprioceptors that are the muscle spindle and the Golgi tendon organs, and this comes through the spinocerebellar tract, and from the periphery the cerebellum receives the sensory information which tells it that what actual movement is going on. So, the cerebellum has two impulses, one is the intention of the movement and another one is what actual movement is going on. So, after calculating the appropriate time and rate of movement to reach the point of intention, the cerebellum then sends corrective impulse, and this corrective impulse goes through the dentato-rubro-thalamocortical fibers. So, remember this term, it is the dentato-rubro-thalamocortical fibers, and this goes to the cerebral cortex. So, the corrective impulse is going from the cerebellum to the cerebellar cortex where the motor impulse originated. So, in this way the cerebellum controls the errors of any voluntary movement and which results in smooth execution of the voluntary movement. So, in this diagram you can see that the tracts that are connecting the different parts. So, we can see that for our voluntary movement, three parts of the brain are mainly in function, that is our motor cortex, the cerebellum and the basal ganglia. So, this is about the error control movement of cerebellum. Now, let us see what happens when there is any lesion of the cerebellum. So, if there is any lesion, it must involve one or more of the deep cerebellar nuclei. So, whenever among the four deep cerebellar nuclei, one of the nuclei is involved, then there will be a cerebellar lesion. And in unilateral lesion, the changes occur in the ipsilateral side, that means the same side of the body. So, if there is a lesion on the right side of the cerebellum, the changes will occur on the right side of the body. So, what are the lesions? What are the problems that occur when there is a cerebellar lesion? There is disturbance of the voluntary movement, and this includes number one is ataxia. Ataxia means uncoordinated movement. So, the movements are not coordinated, there is uncoordination, and this is called ataxia. Then we have nystagmus. Nystagmus means rapid involuntary oscillatory movement of the eyeball, and there is no fixation of the eyeball, so that is nystagmus. Then we have dysmetria and past pointing, and this means inability to judge the distance, so overshoot the point of intention. And then we have intention tremor. In case of Parkinson's disease, you know, there is resting tremor, and in case of cerebellar lesion we have intention tremor. And there is also difficulty in speech articulation, and this is called dysarthria or slurred speech. So, these voluntary problems will occur. And then we have dysdiadochokinesia. This means inability to perform rapid alternating movements, and there is delay in initiating of movement and decomposition of movements. So, these are the disturbances that are occurring when there is cerebellar lesion. And there is also disturbance of tone, posture and equilibrium. So, there is varying degree of hypotonia. The tone of the muscle decreases and it is of varying degree. In some person it is less, and some person there is a high degree of hypotonia. Then deep reflexes becomes pendular. So, if we test the knee jerk, we will see that the knee jerk is pendular. And staggering gait or drunken gait. So, the patient is unable to walk on a straight line, that is called drunken gait. So these are the disturbances that may occur when there is cerebellar lesion. In this diagram, you can see that there is hypotonia of the muscles, and we can see nystagmus and the drunken gaits. So what are the tests that we can do to detect the cerebellar lesion? To detect the cerebellar lesion, there is the finger nose test, and the patient is asked to touch the tip of the nose with the index finger while closing his eyes, and if the patient is able to do that, then it's okay. But in case of a cerebellar lesion, the patient will not be able to perform this function. Then we have the heel shin test, the gait test, the speech test. In case of speech test, we will see that speech is slow and lolling due to incoordination of the movements of the laryngeal muscles and the muscles of the tongue. And there is Romberg's test to detect cerebellar ataxia, test for dysdiadochokinesia. So this is all about the cerebellum, the functions of the cerebellum, the functional organization of the cerebellum, and the lesions that may occur whenever there is a cerebellar disease. So this is all for today. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.